go. What's up? It's Kearns here, and I have some new phones. This one's my phone. It's just boring old iPhone, but the new ones, we got the 11 Pro, or freaking Apple fanboy over here. So today I have the Samsung Note 20 Ultra. It has some outdated confidential stickers on them. Confidential, unauthorized use prohibited, no photo allowed, not for sale, do not leak info. But that is outdated, so we should be good. First things first, let's appreciate this color. A nice rose gold finish. They call it bronze. I think that's up for debate. Anyways, that doesn't matter at all. There's a lot of specs to be known about these phones. We'll be focusing on the Note 20 Ultra and more specifically the cameras. We also have some moment cases for it, so you can throw it in and attach your moment lenses. So let's talk lenses first. You have the standard lens right here, which is 108 megapixels, which is absolutely insane. I have a 5D Mark IV, I have a Sony, and they shoot like 24-ish megapixels. I'm getting a phone call. Hello?
Your telephone number has been pre-selected by Ritz-Carlton Hotel to receive a complimentary stay in Mexico. For further details.
Nice try. So I just gave you some false information there. The center one is the 108 megapixel standard lens, more than my Sony, Canon, blah, blah, blah. The top one is the ultra wide. This ultra wide here is 12 megapixels. And as you would guess, it's a very wide angle like this, a wide angle field of view. So that's cool. And then you have this last lens. This last lens is the telephoto lens. It is also 12 megapixels. And it has actually quite a bit of zoomage. I'll mainly just be doing this review around where I live, around my neighborhood, but earlier this week I was shooting this phone out of the Oregon coast on a surf trip. For video, I was really impressed with how it looked out of the camera. It was a little more saturated than I would like for my taste, but it just was very sharp, very clear. Altogether, I was just really impressed by how sharp and nice it looked straight out of the camera for video. For photo, I was, I'm like half and half about it. So this photo, for instance, I like how it came out. It looks pretty natural for the most part. It did saturate those blues a bit, and that's one thing it tends to do. I'll show you an example in a second. Overall, the lighting was really nice. It was this weird weather window of fog mixed with like sun kind of going in. Like it was just this cool lighting scenario. But if you look at these next photos, I shot it on the ultra wide, the standard, and the zoom. The one thing I noticed right up front is those saturated blues. That sky is just too saturated for my taste, and some people like that. If that floats your boat, by all means, let it sail. I'm not a huge fan of it personally. And the same thing shows in the video as you play these clips. Some of it was on ultra wide, some of it was on zoom, some of it was on the standard. And like I said, I'm personally not a huge fan of that saturated blue look, but yeah, it is what it is. One cool thing about shooting video on this camera is it's this little hand icon right here that if you press it, it's called super steady. And if you turn it on, it's super steady, as you would expect. This is without the steady on. You know, it's still pretty dang steady. Like, we're gonna flip it to video mode and do a walking test with and without that steady hand option. So here's without it. Flip the steady, super steady is on now. I noticed it just got a lot more noisier in the image, so I don't know if it's using a different lens or whatever that is, but it definitely looks noisier. All right, that one's in 4K, and the super steady one is in 1080, so that might be why there was much more noise. It must have changed it as I switched it to that super steady mode. The 4K one not only looks just as steady as the 1080 super steady one, it looks significantly better, way less noise. You might as well just film in 4K. I'm gonna go do other things. So one thing I'm noticing here is that when I shot with it at the beach in Oregon, it focused on saturating the main color in the image, which was blue. Now that I'm in this setting, where there's just a bunch of forest and greenery, it put a heavy emphasis on saturating the greens. But this is the first time I've seen a phone that seemingly chooses what color to saturate based on the amount of it in an image. Because if you notice in the Oregon photos, the blue is like heavily saturated, and then the green and the trees is actually pretty desaturated. Really the main color and only prominent color in this image is green, but it saturated the crap out of it. So anyways, more tests. iPhone versus Note 20 Ultra ultra-wide test. They both look about the same in terms of focal length, to be honest. No real advantage to either one there. But the one thing I did notice is that the iPhone 11 Pro ultra-wide photo looks so much more noisy and grainy compared to the Note 20 Ultra. It looks very clean on the Note 20 Ultra, a lot more saturated. Just all around a better image on the ultra-wide, so something to note. So one thing I noticed too is the way it handles low light is actually really impressive. I just filmed this area really quick and it's nothing special to look at, but that area is just not very lit right now. It's pretty dark. I was very surprised to not see much grain or noise generated from trying to compensate. I even darkened it and brightened it, didn't really see much issue. So one thing I noticed when I was shooting it in Oregon, I was in this spot where it was pretty forested. I was just taking a wide, standard, and telephoto example, and I really was not a fan of how it rendered that scene. But it just looked super, super fabricated, super fake. I'm personally not a fan of that look. Some people are. If that floats your boat, I mean, let it sail, but personally not a fan. Boom, local park. It's very bright, you can't see it, but it's there. I'm gonna leave this in the car. It's a public park. I don't wanna be that guy with like 16 cameras running around, so we'll report back. The Note 20 Ultra is great. I think the bread and butter of this phone truly is the 5x optical zoom. The lighting on my face just isn't. That's better. I'll talk through a couple of these clips here I just took. This is a little 4K clip of the kites. People are always flying kites down there. And here's a 5x zoom of it. Again, that 5x optical looks amazing. One thing that I was not keen on was the 50x zoom. It is a straight gimmick. It looks terrible. This is zoomed in at 50x. I believe this one is 20x and this is 10x. Once you get past that 5x optical zoom, it turns digital, and that basically just means you're looking at a photo, and you know when you're like on your phone and you zoom in on a photo too much and all you see is pixels, like that's all it's doing. It's just taking a photo and pretty much zooming in, just cropping in on it. So when you do that 50 times over, it's not gonna render a good result. Bunch of test images. Overall, it's pretty good. Wow. Sunset's going off behind me, hold up. All right, I tried taking a photo on the phone. It didn't look that cool, but it gives a excellent backdrop behind me. So let's finish out this video. One thing that surprised me a lot was the depth of field it will process. I assume it's processed. I don't think it's done organically, but here's a photo I took of a flower. All that depth of field is, I believe, just rendered in, and here it is in video. It just looks really good. It looks like a freaking low aperture lens you're taking that on. Like, that's crazy. I took a few slow-mo clips as well. This is the super slow-mo 720 at 960 frames per second. It is so slow, and also in 720. But this is in 240 at 1080. Pretty impressed with the slow-mo. The detail looks amazing. Again, that's only 1080, so I thought this was interesting too. This is 5x optical zoom on the water. That looks really cool, I think, and I zoom out here to standard. Boom. Still looks awesome. Looks really clean, very detailed, and then I go ultra wide. Yeah, still pretty detailed, but I thought that 5x zoom was really cool. I really just like how that looks. It's so sharp, so detailed, like, man. Oh, and last thing I think I should cover is the 108 megapixels. I kind of Forgot about that. I took a few side-by-sides and I'll just let the photos do the talking, because when you zoom in on these, like, you can really tell the difference between the standard, I think 12 megapixel or 24 megapixel or so, versus the 108 megapixels this phone can put out, which is freaking nuts. Like, 108's huge. You could print probably a billboard with that if you wanted to. That's unreal. But that's that for the Samsung Note 20 Ultra. All in all, I'm very impressed by the cameras on this. I think quality-wise, it looks a lot better than the iPhone. Just the over-processing, like whatever it's doing in the AI, I'm just not a huge fan of. Again, there's nothing wrong with that, but personally, I'm not so keen on it. But that's all personal opinion, and I don't know what else to say. So I guess that means I should just close out this video if I have nothing more to say. All in all, very impressed by the phone. We have Moment cases in the shop. Fits snug like a glove, and you can attach your Moment lenses on top and it'll protect that sucker real well. But that is that, and yeah, I will see you on the next video, I guess. I love that. It feels like a Palm Pilot. Remember those from like the early 2000s? Freaking Palm Pilots. Wow. Post that to the gram.